actually, and I might have that backwards. I think I actually may have that backwards. But if one of them shows you the lesser number, let's put it that way, shows doesn't show to your friends the higher number, which I think actually is followers. Anyway, I'm a bit confused on that. Look it up yourself. But it you can follow a page, and then it shows your friends what you follow. So you can like a page kind of anonymously and follow it if you want people to know. And the point being, if you look at these pages, you'll see sometimes a very big discrepancy between the two numbers. So what that tells me is there's a lot of people that want the information from a Facebook page like John Martin Talks, but they don't necessarily want their friends and family to know that they're looking at a conservative site. That's the main point I wanted to try to make. A new Cato Institute survey confirms this fear. Nearly two-thirds, 62% of Americans say the political climate, think about this, in America now, the political climate these days prevents them from saying things they believe because others might find them offensive. Now, you know this is true. There's no question about it. I guarantee you it is true where I'm broadcasting from in Gainesville, Florida. I mean, to be a Republican, the Democrats, let me just give you a quick example. Democrats outnumber Republicans in Alachua County, in Gainesville, which is the primary city, by almost double digits. Now, the Republicans have closed that, and there's a huge number of independent people, but they tend to vote Democratic. That's just the way it is in this area. In some places, it's different. But I can tell you there are many more people who actually are conservative, but they will not register as a Republican. They're business owners, that kind of thing. And you can look up what people are registered. You know, use freedom of information and all that kind of stuff. And they will not register Republican. Thus, in Alachua County, if you are a registered Republican, it is definitely a political statement. It's easy, for instance, to be a Republican, say, in another county in Florida, Sarasota, where it's kind of the opposite of this area. The vast majority of people are Republicans. And so, yeah, and being a Democrat down there might be a political statement. But where I live, being a Republican and especially switching parties like I did about a decade ago, it was a big, big deal. So I know it's true here, and I suspect it is in your neighborhood. Back to this study, they found majorities of Democrats, 52%, independents, 59%, which is kind of interesting, and Republicans, 77%, which I can understand, all agree they have political opinions they are afraid to share. And think about it. It's not just whether or not now, I mean, with social media, it's gone beyond whether you're willing to share your political opinion. Now you're getting punished for not sharing an opinion. For instance, Black Lives Matter group and other groups that the Democrats support are now putting pressure on people. They will have like a campaign within a company about supporting Black Lives Matter. And if you don't post on your Facebook page that you support Black Lives Matter or put some ribbon up or something to that effect, then you are actually chastised for your silence. And that's pretty interesting if you think about it. So they have upped their game. Of course, progressives, and I'll make this point all the time, progressives take it to extreme. So it's not enough for you to be neutral. You can't be neutral, in fact. You have to come out supporting groups like Black Lives Matter, because if you don't, it just assumes that you're racist, right? It doesn't matter what color you are. You're racist or you're not truly woke. Well, let me just tell you for the record, I support the concept that Black Lives Matter, because dare I say it, might get canned. Mr. Algorithm, you know, I'm at peace with you, brother. But I do believe that all lives matter. But Black Lives Matter, the organization, is a Marxist organization. And I know I do not support the organization Black Lives Matter. Put me in whatever category you want. But it says here, only strong liberals in the Cato study feel free to speak their minds in public. So now we live in fear of liberals and progressives. I mean, so that's the boogeyman now. If you don't kowtow to the liberals, then you are in trouble. Maybe that explains some of Joe Biden's shift. Most of the 52% of Democrats who feel they can't share their beliefs in public will likely vote for Joe Biden in November. Well, my question would be why? Is it a combination of you don't understand what's truly happening? Is it a creature of habit? I think actually people get in a habit of voting a certain way, and it's tough to turn them off. And then, of course, there's Trump derangement syndrome, which is plaguing America across the board and making people make really irrational decisions, like supporting Joe Biden, which is about as irrational as it gets. The Biden campaign, when appealing to moderate Democrats, will try to distance itself from the more radical elements of their party. But look for Biden's choice of vice president. It will likely be someone who will share the agenda of the radical left wing of the party. So he's put off choosing his vice president. If you look at like the top 10, as they say, of people, I guess the people that were on his list, it's a rogues gallery, really, of progressives. It really is. I mean, so not only are we going to have one of the most progressive, if not the most progressive president in history if Biden wins, but if something happens to him, then the person in line to take over will be even more progressive than Joe Biden. But they say here that that Joe Biden is trying to appeal to the moderates. I don't see very much evidence of that. I really don't. Now, his campaign may be trying to do that, but Joe Biden himself, the limited time we're allowed to speak to him, and I've been telling you that Joe Biden is going to try to get out of debates, and we saw some of that just this past week. But I see little evidence at all that Joe Biden, the man, is trying to be moderate. In fact, as I always tell you, with these progressives, just take them at their word. You don't have to try to figure out where they're coming from. Just simply take them at their word, and you'll be right where you need to be. And Joe Biden doubled down. You know, Bernie Sanders said a few weeks ago that Biden was poised to be the most progressive president since FDR and perhaps in history. Well, Joe Biden said, and he wasn't even asked this in a presser he did, which is probably one of the reasons why they don't like Joe Biden to be off the teleprompter. He said the following. Check it out.
And lastly, I think that notwithstanding the fact, I think I have laid out the most detailed plans on the economy and on issues relating to health care and the rest of any president in modern history. I mean, it's awful detail. If I'm elected and this passes, I'm going to be good to go down as one of the most progressive presidents in American history.
There you go. You know, I was thinking when I saw the person doing the interpretation for the hearing impaired, I wonder if there's one up there that they could go, "Stop, Joe, stop, don't say it, stop." Something like that, because you know he needs some kind of warning in that. But as far as his vice president, I still think that the front runner to me, and I'm not advocating for this, is Kamala Harris. I think when it's all said and done and balance out somebody he'd be comfortable with, who's not too far to the left and all, I think he's going to end up picking her. I mean, they're saying this Susan Rice gal and all, but I think she is so much of a neocon that there's a danger that the Bernie bros and the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which is in control of the party, is actually going to overturn all of that. So I still think it's going to be Kamala Harris, but I guess we'll see soon. They keep putting it off. But once in power, it resembles, I mean, we're getting a lot of bang here. There must be, hope they're not tearing the building down. I don't know if you hear it, but maybe they're coming for me. They're maybe after me. But once in power, back to this article, it is reasonable to assume Biden will listen to his VP and reward his base by placing people in key positions in his administration, the federal bureaucracy, and the courts that will share the ideology and social agenda of the radical left. Well, Biden, empty shell Joe is what I've been calling him now. He's going to do whatever he is told. You know, I've been playing this video. I'm not going to play it now, but it will come back. I assure you that Biden is an empty shell, like a conch shell where you just blow in it like. So whatever Ocasio-Cortez blows into it, whatever Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren blow into it, or whatever his vice president blows into it, that's what Joe Biden is going to do. Joe Biden doesn't have an agenda. I'm going to say it right now. Maybe somebody say, "Oh, you're defending Joe Biden." No, I'm not. I'm just telling it like it is. I don't believe Joe Biden is capable of having an agenda. Now, the Joe Biden of old that we've showed many times back in like 1994 in the crime bill, that dude had an agenda. I'm not saying he never did. I'm just saying now he's a tabula rasa. He's a blank slate. He's an empty shell. And that is why, by the way, now that's one reason that a lot of conservatives and people who care about the country are very concerned about Joe Biden. But the people who want to fundamentally change America now realize that Joe Biden is the perfect Manchurian candidate because he doesn't even know who he is or what time of day it is. And they can prop him up and keep this in mind. I guarantee you, because think about this. We're not seeing much of Joe Biden at all, really, are we? Not impromptu. Think about if he is blessed by the coronavirus. Because if he had to go out, for instance, typically right now, if we had a typical campaign, Joe Biden as the nominee for the Democratic Party, presumptive nominee, whatever they want to call him, he'd be doing 5, 6, 7 events a day right now. Can you imagine Joe Biden doing 2 events, maybe even 1 event, let alone a half a dozen events, and being on camera in front of people right now? It would be a disaster for the Biden campaign. So he's been blessed. And Terry McAuliffe, the former chairman of the Democratic Party, was absolutely right on that video, and we've played it a few times, where he said, leave Biden in the basement. He's right where he needs to be, and it's the perfect place, and he's doing well there. Biden can't afford to be out. And so you can imagine, back to my original point I wanted to make, Billy Bob tells me to get on with it. He's my sidekick, by the way. He has a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. But Joe Biden, if he actually got elected, would we ever even see the dude? I mean, would he ever be out in front of the cameras as president? I don't think so. I mean, he'd probably be in hiding. He'd go into the bunker at the White House. He'd say, I don't know about the Oval Office, but that bunker looks pretty appealing. The full power of the federal government, back to the article, will be used to advance an unprecedented liberalization of abortion laws and use existing civil rights law to suppress dissent from the party line in areas like abortion, religious liberty, transgender rights, and family life. Now, something, if you're new to the show, you might not have heard this, but if I say it, of course, it bears repeating. And secondly, welcome, glad to have you, but where you been? You're in the right place now if you want the real truth and not political correctness. But let me just tell you one of my axioms. The progressives will always take things to the extreme. There is no moderation in the progressive movement in this country. And abortion, for instance, is a perfect example of that, because we went from safe, legal, and rare under the Clintons, which a lot of people, now I'm not advocating for, pro-abortion. I'm just saying, I think a lot of the country was, it's not really my business, doesn't affect me, safe, legal, and rare, I can live with that. Well, the progressives have taken that now to where? To the point where Northam, the governor of Virginia, spoke for the Democratic Party. Believe me, he speaks for the progressives. When he said, we'll make the baby, the baby's born, like Rush Limbaugh said, the 4th trimester abortion. The baby's born and we'll make it comfortable, we'll be nice to it. Then we'll have a conversation with whoever it needs to be, and then off with his head. And if you don't believe I'm telling you the truth, all you got to do is look at this video, and this is about a year or two ago. Mario Cuomo, not Mario Cuomo, that was his dad, but Andrew Cuomo, I guess, the current governor of New York City, when this looks like the celebration of some great legislation. This is when they were signing the abortion bill that basically expanded abortion rights in New York, that made it where, it just basically guaranteed you can have abortion right into, as I say, the 4th trimester. Check out the glee with which the people around that signing ceremony have about signing the right to kill babies even after they're born. Check it out.
The bill was first introduced in 2007 and removes abortion from the state criminal code.
That's good enough. So this was like his first introduced in 2007. It didn't pass. And then about 2018, it did pass, and they're celebrating. I got to tell you, that appalls me. It should appall you no matter what side of the abortion issue you're on, because aborting a child is not a celebratory event. I've had a great deal of experience with this. And somebody will say, well, what are you talking about? Well, let me just tell you very quickly. I used to work at a drug treatment center. I worked at an alcohol and substance abuse treatment center for 15 years. And I dealt with clients, both clients at the center and in various recovery programs that had to have abortions or did have abortions. I don't know about had abortions. And I can tell you, and I've had to go with them and sit with them and counsel them. I can tell you right now, I have never, I'm not saying they're not out there, but I have never once met a woman that celebrated having an abortion, that was happy to be there. It is a somber, sad event, and I can tell you for a fact, because I have dealt with this after the fact, that it traumatizes women, maybe not in every case, but in the cases that I'm personally, and it was dozens, trust me on this, actually it affects them the rest of their lives. They think about that. Even after they've had children, they think about that. So this idea that abortion is something to be celebrated is ludicrous. And I can't see how, even if say you are pro-abortion, how you can actually celebrate the termination of a child's life. I don't understand that. I've never understood that. But this I do understand. Progressives will take every single thing to the extreme. So if you think things are extreme now, elect Joe Biden into the White House, let the Democrats hold on to the House and take the Senate, and extreme will be an understatement, man. I don't even want to think about where we be going there, but we need to. We better. Those who want to suppress free speech, back to the article, and attack the religious liberty of those with conservative and traditional views and beliefs will have a sympathetic friend in the Biden administration. As I say, I don't know that Biden has an agenda, but Bernie and that bunch, they got a big time agenda. And taking religion out of American life is a big part of it. This term religious liberty, I haven't talked about this in a while, but people sometimes wonder, why do evangelical Christians support Donald Trump in such a big way? And there's a real simple reason for that. There's a couple reasons. One, the alternative is ungodly. But Donald Trump, I don't think of him as being an overly religious guy. I'm not being critical of him. I don't think anyone says, that Donald Trump is the pillar of morality and all of that kind of stuff. And so you may wonder why evangelicals support him. Well, I can tell you, this term right here, religious liberty, is what it's all about. Because the one thing Donald Trump has done for religious freedom, religious liberty, is giving them permission to actually exercise their constitutional rights. He's basically gone to Christians and other religions as well and said, look, you have a right to freedom of assembly. Of course, that's being taken away now. You have a right to practice your faith in any way you see fit, as long as it doesn't harm other people. That's basically the agreement we have, right, with the Constitution and religion. That's in its essence. And Donald Trump is the epitome of that. He celebrates the religious liberty of people. He lets Christians be Christians. The Democrats have been trying to remove God in every aspect of life. They've taken it out of the public schools. How has that worked? They're trying to take God out of everything. I didn't play it today, but do you remember back, I think it was in 2012, the Democrats had to vote to put God back in the platform of the Democratic Party. And actually it didn't pass, but they rammed it through anyway. But trust me on this, the Democratic Party, as it's currently run by hardcore progressives, want to remove God out of the picture. They're using the pandemic right now to make it where you cannot worship and that kind of thing. So trust me on this. They are trying to take God out of our society, and Donald Trump is trying to allow people to practice religious liberty as guaranteed under the Constitution. I mean, that's just the way it is. So that's why people like Donald Trump. They're not saying he's the most moral person in the world. They're saying he lets us be who we have a God-given right to be. People are rightly afraid to share their conservative political and religious views and values in the workplace and the public square, and certainly on social media. Well, you personally know this if you've practiced any form of conservatism. on things like Facebook and Twitter and everything. Facebook will put you in jail, so to speak, for anything conservative that they deem is not, violates community standards. Oh, algorithm, I'm telling you, that guy is powerful. If you're listening right now, Al, I'm going to get you some of them chocolate cherries as soon as I can find out where your address is. I have nothing against algorithm, but let me give you a quick example of Facebook jail. I got put in Facebook jail 6-8 months ago and couldn't broadcast the show for a couple of days. And the reason was I reposted a post that was put in my newsfeed. So Facebook put it out there for me to see. And it was a joke. It basically said that one way to end the coronavirus would be to push the election date past November 3rd, and they would end it now. It was something to that effect. And they put it out as false campaign stuff. It was a joke, but it was a conservative joke, and I went to jail for it. So, I got to be careful because I want to stay on the show and bring you this truth every day. The Democratic Party and their allies in the media, education, and business, when not defending outright violent riots and censorship of hate speech, are smugly winking at the protesters and social media. If you don't believe that's true, I'm going to play this short video right now of Jerry Nadler, who is the chair of the Judiciary Committee, considered, a leader in the Democratic Party, and he was caught on tape talking about Portland and the violence out there where they're killing people, burning buildings down, shooting cops with lasers and pellets and everything else, and incendiary devices, all that stuff. Jerry Nadler was asked about that, and here is this progressive leader's response. Check it out.
That's happening in Portland right now? There's riots.
That's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
About Antifa in Portland?
Yes.
Sir, there's videos everywhere online. There's fires and riots. They're throwing fireworks at federal officers. DHS
It's just
is there.
a myth. That's
Look
it.
online. It gets crazy, Mr.
It's
Nadler.
just a myth, man. It ain't happening. Don't believe your lying eyes on those videos that we play where they're saying, this is what we do, and burning down the courthouse, setting it on fire. Don't believe what you're actually seeing because it can't possibly be true because it is a myth. This is what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I haven't had a chance to look at this latest video. And if you haven't heard, and I would encourage you to check it out, I have not looked at it. So I want to say that right off the bat because it kind of broke this morning. I did not have a chance to. But there's been a release of the camera footage, apparently, of the cops' body cams from Minneapolis when they arrested George Floyd. And it's supposedly pretty interesting and paints a very different picture. One of the things I warned people on the left, be careful what you wish for, because these body cams idea that cops are going to wear body cams, which I'm not opposed to, by the way. But if you think they're going to show that cops are just outright, hunting black people, for instance, that's not what they're going to show. What the vast majority, 99.9%, now some of them may show some bad things, but 99% of them are going to show that what the cops are really up against, and it ain't going to work out for the liberal left. I predicted that, and this video it supports what I said. We'll see. But this is what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen, and that is why I keep telling you, you don't always, and back to this article itself, people are afraid to express their political opinion. I get it 100%, but that's what I'm for. I'm for shouting it out. I'm like the mouth of the South here, and I'm ready to put it out there. So what I need you to do, because not everybody, as I say, can be a fighter, but you've got to support people who are in the fight. So you need to take a look. I'm live from Big Daddy Unlimited Studios. If you look up in the top part of our Facebook description of our show, you will see a link to a sponsors page. I really need you to check that out. They're giving you a offer of just about free, 99 cents for a free trial. If you have any interest in the Second Amendment, from guns, ammo, to tactical gear, to supportive stuff of the Second Amendment, the list is broad. Check it out. You cannot lose. 99 cents. Come on. And you will be helping support the show and helping keep this fighter in the fight. And we have a lot of plans here at John Martin Talks to expand what we're doing. We're going to bring in some other influencers, guests, those kind of things. You're going to see a big expansion of the show and other things in the coming weeks and months. But I really need your help to do it. So liking and sharing it, pushing the word out. Thank you so much for doing that. But check it out, BDU. Check out Big Daddy Unlimited, the sponsor link in our description on the Facebook page. I really need your help. All right, we're going to move along to our next story, and this is from The Hill, and it kind of ties in a little bit about this. This is an opinion piece from a guy named Andrew Stein, and he's the former Democratic president of the New York City Council and founder and chairman of Democrats for Trump. And in his opinion, here's the headline: Democrats' silence on our summer of violence is a tactical blunder. So in other words, he's saying that Democrats like Jerry Nadler saying it's a myth what's happening in our cities and our city streets. He's saying that the Democrats need to speak out against that. Yeah, he's probably right, but I don't see it happening. Have you, he's talking about now the McCarthy era and how it took one person to kind of change the whole thing. Have you no sense of decency, sir? So asked Joseph Welch, the attorney who stood up to the bullying of Senator Joe McCarthy during the 1954 Senate hearings. And once he said it, the nightmare that was McCarthyism was over. The power, ladies and gentlemen, of one voice can never be underestimated. Look at the power of Donald Trump's voice. I mean, he has changed the direction this country was heading in. Now, whether or not his voice is going to be strong enough that we give him another shot in 2020 remains to be seen. But his voice, make no mistake, had changed the direction of this country and saved us from Hillary Clinton and other things else. It's always been the power of one voice that motivates others. That's why DJT needs your help, and that's why JMT needs your help as well. Who will be the Joseph Welch who wakes us up from this new wave of reverse McCarthyism? Today you are blacklisted if you don't support a far-left agenda. That's absolutely right. But who will it be on the Democratic side? That's a good question, because I don't see it. I don't see anyone out there who has, let alone the cojones, as they say, but really the motivation to do that, because they believe they're winning the argument right now. One thing about these progressives, and that's who's running the Democratic Party. I'm not talking about all Democrats, but make no mistake, the party of JFK asks not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, that many of us were raised up on and became Democrats. That party is dead. I wish it was not so. I wish to God it was not so, but it's so. So if you're out there and you're a registered Democrat, realize, and you may like this, but just realize that your party has been hijacked by the hardcore left. Look at the leaders that are out front, from Nadler to Schiff to Pelosi, for God's sakes, to Schumer, let alone the empty shell Biden and backed by Bernie Sanders and all that much. And show me where there is one real leader in the Democratic Party that is not a hardcore progressive. And certainly the ones that are talking are. So I don't see anyone raising up. He says in his article here, his opinion, it's time that Democrat cross the invisible picket line to condemn both the cancel culture and the mindless violence in our cities. I agree with that 100%. It is way past time for a Democrat to actually stand up and say something about this. But I just don't see it. And maybe it'll be a surprise, and maybe there'll be one. I mean, they would probably be there. Can you imagine what would happen if a Democratic leader actually came out and condemned Black Lives Matter and Antifa? What would happen to their homes? I mean, I think we know, right? They're already bashing people who are in favor of them. So it's crazy. It's time that a Democrat stood up for the First Amendment in this country and the need for an open political debate. Can't argue that. And it's time that a Democrat exploded the nonsense that what is going on in Portland and Seattle is just protest and not destructive anti-police, anti-American violence that needs to be stopped, not coddled. Well, maybe it'll be Jerry Nadler. Oh, that's right. It's a myth, so it won't be him. I mean, he's right about his point, but I just don't see it happening. Do you? Can you name someone who would be a good candidate? Chime in on whatever Facebook page you're watching on right now. Howdy, good morning, Citizens for Trump and America's Voice News. We're broadcast on Facebook every day live at 8 o'clock. We're also rebroadcast on America's Voice News across their streaming network at 2 a.m., I think, as a late night show. You can download free app on Android, iPhone, Apple TV, Fire Stick, Roku, Channel 219, Dish Network, and the Pluto channel, and expanding all the time. Check out America's Voice News. They got a great lineup of shows. We're going to start having some of the guests from America's Voice News on our show in the not too distant future, so stay tuned. But it said, unfortunately, Joe Biden is not that Democrat. You think? Duh. He is too concerned with courting left-wing voters to call out these destructive currents in America. As I say, I don't know that Joe Biden is doing anything. I think he's being manipulated. He's like, a puppet. They're going to be a puppet master. But Biden is signing pacts with Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Now, Biden was courageous one time. There was a time when Joe Biden was courageous. And no, I'm not talking about the crime bill, although he was courageously telling Black America, I don't care about what your children, I don't care the fact that you can't raise your children. Got to get these thugs off the street, these predators off the street. You don't believe me? Check it out. I think we played it on yesterday's show. But I got a video right now that shows that Biden one time was, and these are his actual words, so don't think that I'm playing a joke on you. This is Joe Biden's actual words about the gangster popcorn. Check it out.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys. And I did. And back in those days, to show how things have changed, one of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a bathing cap. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off. Well, he came off, and he said, I'll meet you outside. My car, these were all public housing behind it. My car, there was a gate out here. I parked my car outside the gate. And he said, I'll be waiting for you. He was waiting for 3 guys in straight razors. Not a joke. There was a guy named Bill Wright, Mouse, the only white guy, and he did all the pools. He was the mechanic. And I said, what am I going to do? He said, come down here in the basement where all the pool filter is. You know the chain, there used to be a chain that went across the deep end.
I think
we
get the picture.
Cut off a 6-foot length of chain and fold up.
Joe Biden's unchained right here. He's going to go out and whip old popcorn, man. I mean, really, this is your guy. No joke. What did he say? No joke. He says that a lot. Joe Biden is a joke, man, a bad joke and a nightmare for America if you elect him. This is your guy. And this was a couple years ago, man. You really think he's gotten better with age? I don't see any evidence. This is your guy. And if you haven't seen the whole video of him dedicating that swimming pool, he also is the one where he's talking about, and I love children jumping on my lap, and I learned about roaches. He's talking about their black children, by the way. Anyway, that's your guy. So there was a time when Biden was courageous, idiotic always. But he says, this article says he could be courageous and stand up for the country he is seeking to lead. He has trouble even waking up, let alone standing up. And he could outline a program for ending the black-on-black crime that kills thousands of African-American kids every year. Well, Biden's already answered that when he was cognizant in that crime bill. When he talks about black children, he tells you flat out, man, take him at his word. I don't care. He literally looks in the camera on the Senate floor and tells you when it comes to black American children, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He just wants them off the street to protect his wife and his mom, a bunch of white folks, by the way. So this idea that Joe Biden is for black America is the biggest nonsense lie that may have ever been told. And if he actually wins and becomes president of the United States, you're going to see Americans in general of every color that the last thing we need is Joe Biden, because take these progressives, and Joe Biden has always been a progressive, by the way, always, but take them at their word. When it comes to black America and your children, he don't care. That's not me. That's him. But you got to have the courage to actually listen to it. Let me check my time. All right. We're pretty close to out of time. Want to get through this as quickly as I possibly can. So we'll read this part. Today, he is MIA, talking about Biden, when it comes to supporting the waves of violence sweeping our cities. Why has he not called out Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler for the outrageous position that his defenders of federal property who are to blame? He basically said that the cops are to blame. Could it be, and I'm just asking for a friend, could it be that Antifa and a large proportion of Black Lives Matter are actually white folks? And maybe that's why he's defending them? I don't know. The Democrats have defended some pretty atrocious things that white people have done. Or does it because it doesn't fit the cause of defeating Donald J. Trump? The Trump derangement syndrome, by the way, is real. It is absolutely real. And of course, he says here, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is not that Democrat either. She is as busy describing federal agents defending a courthouse as stormtroopers and concerned about the constitutional rights of those committing violent acts. Old plastic face herself, basically while people are dying in the streets around her district and around Democratic cities everywhere, her answer is to let them eat ice cream. Although I could go on with this story, I want to cover in the couple of minutes we have left the story about this lady. So we'll move along all the way down to this last story, and it is from the Washington Post. Because there's good. I want to end the show with a little bit of good news because there is some good news out there. Advice from a woman who survived COVID-19, the 1918 flu, and cancer. We are in a pandemic today that the world hasn't seen the likes of in 102 years, going back to the Spanish flu. Mildred Geraldine Jerry Shalapus, and we got a good picture of her. I hope I say her name, Shapalas, I guess, is one of the few people in the world who have survived both. So she survived both the Spanish flu pandemic and she's had COVID-19 at the age of 102. The 102-year-old New Englander lived through a severe bout of the flu during the 1918 pandemic as a baby. That one killed a few million people. And now, a century later, punctuated by 2 bouts of cancer, Shapalas, I guess is how you say her name, also has recovered from COVID-19 in the pandemic of 2020. I mean, here's to you, ma'am. And a little bit of cancer in between, man. I tell you what, that generation, my mom just passed last year at 98, man. That generation is tough, man. We got a lot to live up to that greatest generation. But this is what she said. She said, I don't think of myself as old. I like that. She's got a good spirit. She is an anomaly, and not just because of her age. The elder Shapalas was not particularly health conscious throughout her life. It says, yet she seems to have a bulletproof immune system. She credits that, check this out, she credits her bulletproof immune system to the fact that she had the 1918 Spanish flu, and her daughter says. She credits that. So maybe she developed an immunity from this, a herd mentality. She says, I really think that this is what the 102-year-old lady said. I really think that having the 1918 flu strengthened everything about me. You know, I mean, how do you make a diamond? A lot of pressure and heat, man. I never had colds or illness until I got cancer, and even then I pulled through. It's either that or Mother Nature thinks I died in 1918, so she ignores me. And you gotta love it. She's got a sense of humor. That's a big part of having a happy life and a long life, I firmly believe. I hope I'm helping you with that. But think about that. This lady has survived the Spanish flu, a bout with cancer, and at 102 years old has come through the COVID-19 virus. It seems to be in flying colors. So you got to love it. Long live Jerry Shapalas. I tip my hat. I take it here. Here's to you, Jerry. May you long live you, lovely lady. I think we could learn a lot from her. And the fact is, there's nothing to be afraid of. This woman knows no fear. You remember when we used to not live in fear? It doesn't seem that long ago. But all of a sudden, that's all we live in. That is by design, by the way. I believe that the mainstream media, progressive leftists, the never Trumpers, the swamp is wanting us to be in fear. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to be like Miss Chapalas, but we could learn a lesson from her, and maybe we'll get through this if we look to our leaders. And I would put her, she's more cognizant. Think about this, and I'll close the show with this. At 102, she's got more marbles than empty-shelled Joe Biden ever had, let alone now. Hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it and share it. Support fighters, as I say. Be a supporter of a fighter. Go to our sponsor link in our top of our Facebook title there and go to Big Daddy Unlimited, 99 cents a month. You can't beat it. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.